Hey guys, Dylan from Noble Records coming at you with another video. I've been wanting to do one kind of like this for a while, just kind of show you behind the scenes of kind of the wholesale cost of new records. You know, a lot of people come in and they look through all the new records, and like the number one complaint is, man, the prices are so high, you know, it's kind of getting ridiculous. And I agree. So I wanted to kind of just show it from the record store owners' perspective on kind of the rise in prices and all that stuff, because if you're paying more, I'm paying more. I think a lot of people kind of get the conception that, how dare you charge me these prices, you know, and I'm like, dude, I'm paying more as well. So I just kind of wanted to show you just my business is, I've always been like totally transparent and try to share all my secrets, and there's not really much secrets to it, but just share advice and kind of let you see behind the curtain to see what's going on and see what prices are like and all that stuff. You know, when I opened my business I've been doing it since 2010, but when I started like doing wholesale stuff, the first time I saw a wholesale list, my mind was blown. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how do people afford this stuff? So anyways, before we get started, if you haven't already, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate that. I try to put out as many videos as I can to have informative stuff about records, the record shop, recommend albums, all that stuff. Also, check out my Instagram at Noble Records. We have a record store here in Matthews, North Carolina, where we're always putting out collections and new stuff and all that. So follow us over there also if you're into that. So anyways, as I was saying, when I first started, like I got a business license, you know, because I used to just sell on eBay and didn't do it. I didn't have a shop or anything like that. Then I started doing pop-up shops around town, and I was thinking, you know what, it's really hard to find records. Maybe I should start ordering new ones. And so I got a business license, because one thing that you need to get to be able to order from a wholesaler is you have to have a business license and state tax ID and all that stuff. That's pretty much all you need. You don't have to be a brick and mortar shop. So anyways, I did that, and the distributor I was working with at that time was kind of old school. They just sent me a list of kind of like the major titles that they carry, and I was like, this is the cost that I pay? Like, this is the wholesale cost? I could not believe how high it was. You know, because when you buy a collection, you know, you buy a record collection, it depends on who you are, it depends on how good the stuff is, but you buy 1,000 records, you know, how much money are you going to possibly pay for 1,000 used records? You know what I mean? And so to see that these records wholesale were $15, $20, and you're supposed to charge $20, I'm like, has anybody making any money? This makes absolutely no sense. And so I didn't order wholesale at the time, because I was like, there's no point, this is ridiculous. And then I went on to, when I opened the shop, when we first opened, I didn't carry wholesale because I couldn't afford it. And so I'm going to kind of get into that after I share some of the prices. I know that you guys probably want to see that. I'll kind of go into like how you are supposed to afford this stuff and all that. So just to start off, these are some regular classic rock titles, just a few of the ones that we keep in stock all the time that sell very, very well. So we always keep in stock, very common. Most record stores you go to, you're going to see stuff like this. So this is like the first one I've got. This is my wholesale list. I just did a really huge for me. I did a big classic rock restock. We recently just have sold the heck out of some classic rock, like reissues and stuff. And so I just did a pretty decent restock. So on this invoice is 131 records, which not a ton, but it was a big order. It was like 5 big boxes. And so I know like a lot of record stores, they probably order that much every day. We don't. We'll get into that. But it's a decent size restock that we did. So this David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust, very common record. We get it. We try to keep it in stock. Everybody loves it. Everybody buys it. No one complains about the price. It's $28.99, which a few years ago, this is probably like a $22 record. Now it's $28.99. But the wholesale cost of this is $19.04. So, you know, there's that 25 to 30% markup on each one is probably about what you'll see. And so for every copy of this, I paid $19.04, almost $20 for a new sealed copy. Now, that with that, sometimes things are damaged, and a lot of times I eat the cost on that. They can be returned to the distributor. I don't do that much just because it's kind of a headache. And so, like, sometimes if anything like gets damaged, somebody drops it in the store, someone takes it home, they play it, they don't like it, they bring it back, whatever, you know, which that happens. That's a whole nother thing. But that I kind of eat the cost of that. So, or like if there's nothing wrong with it, they just, you know, like sometimes people take it home and they'll have a Crosley and they're like, it's skipping. And I'm like, do you have a Crosley? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, Dark Side of the Moon is another one. Try to keep it in stock. It's usually in print, but it's got $34.99 on it. I don't have it on this specific list because I didn't order it with this, but it's around $24 wholesale cost on a $34.99 record. So if you think of all the records that we have in the shop, that the unit price is, you know, $20 to $25 a lot of times. Another one, Led Zeppelin 2. Let's check this one. This one's another one, you know, you buy it, you know it's going to sell. Led Zeppelin 2 is a staple. Same price on that one as the David Bowie 1904. Same MSRP is $28.99. They all have an MSRP, manufacturer's suggested retail price. And so we just price everything in the MSRP. And, you know, new records are not a huge money maker for us. But we try to have things in stock. So like a lot of people that are kind of new to vinyl, they'll come in here and say, I just want Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? And, you know, I'm like, well, we got them right here. Because, I mean, to get good, clean, used copies in consistently to where you're going to feed the demand is not, like, really feasible or possible. You know, we get them in regularly, but everybody wants them. So, and, like, a lot of times you find the old school OG presses, you know, or at least 70s presses, they're usually beat, you know. So this one is $22.99. The wholesale cost is $15.16. So like this is one, you know, you look for titles that you know are going to sell fast, and then the wholesale cost is not that high on it. So this one, the price point is $22.99. Really good price point. Most people can swallow and afford it. It's not that bad. And then for me, you know, $15 is probably the lowest you're going to get a new record wholesale for. And so I buy these and keep them in stock all the time because, like I said, it sells really well. I'm not going to get stuck with this. You know, I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute too. But some things you order and you get totally stuck with it. So, yeah. So next one, Free Will and Bob Dylan. This is not always in print, but it is right now. $24.99 is the MSRP, and the wholesale cost is $16.67. So you kind of see I'm making, you know, $8 or whatever on each copy of this when it sells. And then one that probably the one I get the most complaints over is Pink Floyd The Wall. To order a new copy, a lot of people come in here and they say it's $45.99. That's the MSRP. The reason why a lot of people have an issue with doing price $99, that's the way it is on the manufacturers. That's just the MSRP. That's what I put on there. If you look on my wholesale list, that's what they all are. They're blah, 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 99. So that's why we do it that way. So anyone that comes in and says, why is it this price? I'm like, that's the manufacturer retail price. You know, that's what that's why we price it at that. There are some things that come along that for whatever reason I can afford to discount it a little bit, and I will. You know, like for whatever reason the wholesale cost is less than 30% or markup or whatever, or like the wholesale markup is more than 30%, and I can discount it a little bit, and I will do that if I think the price is too high. I'll discount them, but a lot of times they're pretty dead on the money. So this one, Pink Floyd The Wall, $45.99. The wholesale cost of this is depending on what distributor you get it from and all that stuff, is about $35. So you think of I'm paying $35 for one record, and then you're paying $45, $46. You know, it's not that crazy, and it's not like I'm making a lot of money at the same time. You know, if you think of it, you are more invested. So like you could buy how many of those Jimi Hendrix records for $35? You know, 2 and some change. You know, for one record. So I'm paying a lot more for this record. That's why the cost is so high on it. So that's the one I just get people complaining about it all the time. They're like, this is ridiculous to pay $45. I agree that it's ridiculous, but The Wall is one of those records that a lot of people love it. I love it. And to find a used copy that is near mint or meant to play with no pop sticks, whatever, is hard to find. And that copy sounds amazing. So, you know, it's a double LP. It's got all the inserts, all the stuff. It's just kind of, records are getting, just with everything, it's getting more expensive. And I think that, you know, we hold on to this idea of when, you know, records used to be blah, blah, blah. And there's some math to that. You know, I've seen a lot of the breakdowns of, like, you know, back in the day, records were, you know, $4.99, $5.99 or whatever. But if you do the math with inflation, it's dead on the money of what records are now. Sometimes it's more expensive. You know, I saw this thing with the White Album. Let me show you. All right, guys, so I wanted to show you the inflation calculator for an original White Album. This is an original US with the serial number, all that, 1968 copy. This one's a little rough, but it is an original 1968 copy. Now, in 1968, if you look at all the advertisements and things like that, this ranged from anywhere from $11.29 to $11.98. So I used an inflation calculator online, which it calculates what the cost would be now for $11.98 in 1968. So in 1968, $11.98, when you crunch the numbers, would be the equivalent of $103.57 for a new double LP. Can you imagine, right? So like a new that's why you probably don't see White Albums all that much, is because can you imagine paying $100 for a new record that's a double LP? I'm sure that there are some that are that much, but we don't see that much, you know what I mean? And so when I go through and I'm pricing records from 1968, 69, 70, I regularly see prices that are anywhere from $199 to $399. So this is kind of a special case, but if a record was $199, that would be the equivalent of $17.20. One that was $299 would be $25.85, and one that's $399 would be $34.49, which is about like the prices now, if we're being honest. So everyone kind of talks about how the prices of records are crazy and they're insane and all that stuff, but really, maybe they haven't really changed all that much. Maybe just inflation has happened. So hope you enjoyed that knowledge. We'll see you next time. So has it changed that much? Probably not. I think, you know, a lot of people are complaining about how everything is expensive now. That's a whole nother issue that we don't need to talk about, but you know, money in the past 3 to 5 years has changed. The record market in the past 3 to 5 years has changed. The manufacturing has spiked for records. A lot more records are being made. There's a high demand. The wait times are longer, all that stuff. So there's a lot of factors that go into why records are costing more. But the bottom line is, if they're costing you more, they're costing me more. So I wanted to show that, and also wanted to show you kind of, you know, view from 30,000 feet, whatever, to show you an order like this. So think in your mind how much you think 131 records should cost. And I'm about to tell you. So the overall cost of this whole batch, which is 131 records, mind you, doesn't seem like that many, was $2,947.46. So I did on average, that is $22.50. Like right on the, it's like $22,499.99. So it's $22.50 per record average. Okay, that's exactly, if you do that number divided by 131, that's what it comes out to math wise. So there's nothing fancy on here. There's no box sets, none of that, and the wall's not even on here. So these are all like regularly priced stuff, nothing insane. You know, one that's crazy is Neil Young's Greatest Hits. You know, the MSRP is $56.99. It's a double LP. My cost is $37.98. That's crazy. I paid almost $40 for a record. It's a lot. So anyways, But what I was trying to say is, you know, you go through and you look how many records I have in the shop. I carry mostly used stuff because that's where my heart is. I like finding collections. I like finding rare stuff. I kind of pride myself in the shop in being able to find stuff that you don't see anywhere else. You know, the way I see new records is they're kind of boring. I've never walked into a shop and been excited about a new record. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they have this brand new record that everyone else has. It's not something that excites me. It's not something that, it just doesn't do it for me. A lot of the new records, I do buy new records for myself. It's necessary to have just so you have a well-rounded, well-stocked shop. You gotta have new stuff. It's just one of those things. But we have more used stuff than we have new stuff. We have in our shop about 3,500 new records in the shop, new sealed. Some of them are reissues, some of them are new releases, all that stuff. And my goal is to have more of that in the future, to do more, because I know that we don't have the best inventory of new records, but we try to keep everybody happy. So if you do the math on that, let's just say there's conservatively 3,000 new records. If you did the average of 22 and a half for everything, that's $67,500 of inventory just to have a small, not the best new inventory in your shop. So you may be thinking to yourself, how does one afford that? And a lot of people, I think they think that there's some sort of, and I think it might have used to have been this way, I don't know, but I used to think that record stores, they kind of were on a credit basis, to where like the distributor will send you $2,000 worth of inventory or whatever, and they'll just kind of keep a tally, and you pay once you sell it. That is not how it goes. You have to pay for that crap up front. So this comes out straight out of my bank account. This $3,000 basically comes straight out of my bank account just for 131 records, and then I gotta hope and pray they sell. Notoriously, there are things that we get stuck with in the shop that we can't sell, and it just sits. You know, like the worst ones have been Adele 30. That I bought 20 copies of it, and like the first week I think I sold one copy, and then slowly they've been selling very slowly, and I've had to price them down. Same with Kanye West Donda, sold one copy, ordered like 20. And so that's because Walmart got a hold of them, and Walmart and Amazon a lot of times can sell things for cheaper than my wholesale cost. Then that's a whole other side of it too. So, and then like the new Paramore record that came out, you know, the MSRP I think is $24.99, and my cost is $19.04. So a lot of that I'm making $5. You know, like it's $6. It sucks. So you know, you are in it for a lot of money, and then some things sell, some things don't. But when you buy a stack of 131 records for $3,000, it's going to be a while before you see that $3,000 back. A long while. So you have to sell. I mean, if you just do the basic math, you got to sell 70% of that just to make your money back. And so that's why it's kind of hard to do new inventory. You know, I think a lot of people come in and they're like, "You're raking in the money in here," and I'm like, "No, dude. Like most days, even if we make decent, most days I will be lucky to break even. Most weekdays I lose money. 9 times out of 10 weekdays I will lose money. I stay open just because you know, there's a lot of record stores that just don't only open on the weekends, and the reason is that weekdays are really slow. And so I have a staff here. I pay them. They you know, usually it's only one person at a time here, just because I'm not a huge shop that can afford multiple people here at a time. But I don't know how big shops do it where they have multiple people. I guess they sell more. That would make sense. But like for instance, if you let's just say, I'm not going to tell you what I pay in rent and all that stuff, but let's just say you got to think of every single day, break down your rent, break down your utilities, like so what it costs to keep the lights on and the heat running or the AC running. And then you got to break down your cost for your labor, so your staff. And so I'm spending, I don't know, $300 a day at least just on those things to be open. So if you think about how many records I have to sell to make a profit, it's not $300. So on a day that I make $500, if it's new records, I'm losing money. You know what I mean? So I've got to make $700, $800 to even crack a profit on those days. And so that's what kind of makes it hard. I try to tell my guys, like, you know, when you're here during the week, I need you doing something that benefits the shop, because I'm losing money more times than not. Money is getting lost. Where you make the money is on the weekends. And so that's just, man, there's a lot. I kind of started this video and I was like, well, I'll just kind of shoot from the hip and talk about, there's so much here, you know, with running a record store that's intimidating. But I will tell you this, I don't take out loans, never taken out a loan, and everything that I've bought has been out of my own pocket. When we started, I just did use because that's what I could afford. I was going around buying big collections. You know, the best way to make money with a record store is buying big collections, because you get a huge volume of stuff and you're able to put it out, and then you make more money per unit than you were, like even percentage wise, than you would on new records. And so I was doing that for the first year, a little bit like a year and a half. And then I was like, you know, I really want to start doing new inventory. We got this amazing collection that I was able to make a lot of money on. And then I took every single cent of that and put it into new inventory. And so now, like, a lot of our money, a lot of our profit and everything goes straight back into the store just to expand our inventory, to do more, to get more stuff, all that. So, you know, that's just kind of a look for a record store, just so you know, when you walk into a record store, the people that are there are putting a lot of not only time and effort and intentionality and all that into the stock that they have, but a lot of money into it. You know, it costs so much money to run a store, even just beyond the records. I mean, you got like toilet paper and crap. You got, I mean, everything in here. You know, people, there's damages, there's losses. People steal stuff. You know, I've seen people walk in, they pick up a record, they drop it and smash the corner and put it right back on the shelf and walk out. And that happens I'm telling you, that happens all the time. And what do I do with that record? I take it and I discount it to nothing, just so people will buy it. And so that's something that people don't really think about. Most of my regular customers, they treat the shop with so much respect. It's a place for them that they love. I love the relationships that I have with them and all that stuff. It's the people that come in here that there's a lot of people that come in that one or two timers that they don't really respect what you do, and they you know, anyways, that's a whole nother story. But that's a problem with society as a whole. But one more thing I thought I would talk about is I've had a lot of people that are starting shops or wanting to start shops, and they're asking, like, how does this whole distribution thing work? So basically, with distributors, you have two different types of distributors, three maybe, but the two main ones that I use. There's one called a one-stop, and then there's like an independent distributor. So a one-stop distributor is like a huge distributor that they stock everything. So, and then the independent ones are kind of smaller ones that kind of stock certain indie labels. So, for instance, it would be like the difference between McDonald's and, you know, McDonald's being a huge restaurant, and then something down the road that, you know, mom and pop burger shop. So you've got, or Walmart and the corner store, you know. So you got, there's a few major one stops. You got All Media Supply, Alliance, Ingram. There's a few that you can use with one stops, and like I said, they stock pretty much everything you can get. Now, the benefit to ordering from them is that it's totally easy. It all comes from one place. It's awesome. That's where I order almost 80% probably, is I order from one stops. You get most of your pre-orders there, all that stuff. But then there's a few smaller distributors, like Secretly Distribution is one of them. It's one of my favorites. They stock like indie labels and stuff. So they do all the coal mine stuff, stuff like that, like smaller indie label type things. And so I can get the coal mine stuff from the one stops, but I can get it cheaper from Secretly Distribution, which is like a smaller type of thing. So when you go in, and you start a shop, you go through and you try to find all the smaller distributors so you can kind of get a little bit of a better deal on the new stuff. But, you know, a lot of times, like the major, so that's the smaller labels. The major labels like Sony and Atlantic and all that stuff, you're not going to get from a smaller distributor. And there's really, I mean, I'm not a genius on this stuff. I know that a lot of bigger shops that spend a lot more time and money on stuff, they might have figured out a way to order straight from Atlantic or Sony or whatever. I've not figured that out. I've heard that it's possible, but I've never been able to figure it out. So all these big ones, you know, Pink Floyd, David Bowie, all that stuff, you got to go to the one stops. You got to pay the price. That's just the way it is. And so, you know, like I said, there's probably a way to do it. I've not ever met anyone who knows how. I've heard that it's possible, but it's extremely difficult to get a wholesale account, and you have to order at it's insane volume to get it. So mainly those big labels, you got to order from the one stops, which are the bigger ones. So it takes a while to figure out all that stuff, figure out which distributors are best for what, for this or that, and it takes up a lot of your time. And for me, I don't like new stuff. I zero care about new stuff. I only care about the old stuff. And you walk into a record store, every record store has its own flavor. It has its own vibe to it. You know, it has its strengths and weaknesses. You know, some shops you walk in and you're like, all right, this is a punk rock shop. They keep a lot of punk stuff in stock. They have used punk stuff. Some shops you walk into, you're like, okay, this is more jazz leaning. My shop, you walk into it's psychedelic. I try to be well-rounded, but it's psych, it's classic rock, it's jazz, it's more on the vintage side of things. But I do still try to stock the new stuff, the new arrivals, all the stuff that comes out, but it's hard to keep track of. And like I said, you know, all the used stuff, that comes just out of my labor of love of doing it. I love finding collections, I love getting stuff, pricing it, discovering new things, putting stuff out there that people are excited about. That's what I love, that's what drives me, that's my thing. But with the new stuff, it's expensive. I hate it. I don't like it. It's boring. It's expensive, and it's not interesting to me. And I hate it, and I don't like it. And I have a hard time. Stocking that stuff because I have zero interest in it. But I do it for the customers, and I do it for y'all, and I try to make sure that if someone comes in, it's their first time here, that they're able to find something and it was worth them coming. So that's the thing. Not everybody that walks in here is gonna be like, oh my gosh, this is a Stooges first pressing on the wall, which is right there, I'm looking at it. You know, a lot of people aren't gonna care. They're gonna be like, all right, that's an expensive record, I would never pay much for the record, and then they just go and buy a new Taylor Swift record. So there's different strokes for different folks. But to have a well-rounded shop, I think you got to have both. You know, we're probably 80% used, you know, but we try to have new stuff too. So anyways, I hope that this has helped y'all. I hope that you've learned a little bit about it. Maybe you go a little easy on your record store guy next time you see him, because this stuff is expensive. And, you know, like I said, you know, you got to do a lot of things that you do want to do, and that kind of makes it fun. But then you got to do some things you don't want to do, which is, you know, it's like a regular job in that way. So hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you did, drop me a comment, push that like button, hit that subscribe button, do all the things, make me feel good, you know, try to share some good info with y'all. But thanks so much for watching as always, and we'll see you guys all the next time.